In 2011, Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman published Thinking, Fast and Slow, a synthesis of decades of research into human judgment and decision-making. At the center of the book is a deceptively simple distinction that has since become one of the most widely applied frameworks in psychology, economics, medicine, and public policy, the distinction between two modes of cognition that Kahneman called System 1 and System 2. System 1 operates automatically. It runs constantly in the background of conscious experience, processing incoming information, generating impressions, and producing responses without any deliberate effort on the part of the thinker. When you recognize a friend's face in a crowd, feel a flash of disgust at a rotten smell, understand a simple sentence, or swerve instinctively to avoid a sudden obstacle, System 1 is doing the work. It is fast, associative, and largely unconscious. It operates by pattern recognition. It matches incoming information to stored patterns and generates rapid, confident responses. System 2, by contrast, requires effort. It is the mode of thinking that comes into play when you have to multiply 47 by 83, when you have to follow a complex argument, when you have to choose between two competing interpretations of ambiguous evidence, or when you have to resist a powerful impulse. System 2 is slower, more deliberate, and conscious. It operates sequentially rather than in parallel. It requires the allocation of attention, and attention is a limited resource. When System 2 is fully engaged, other cognitive tasks suffer. We find it harder to walk quickly while doing difficult arithmetic, for instance, because both activities draw on the same pool of effortful mental resources. Kahneman is careful to note that System 1 and System 2 are not anatomical structures. They are characters in a story that captures something real about how cognition works. They represent two different modes of processing that have been extensively documented in experimental psychology. The distinction maps roughly onto the contrast between automatic and controlled processing, between intuition and deliberation, between fast and slow thinking. The specific labeling is a pedagogical device, but what it points to is real. The relationship between the two systems is not symmetrical. System 1 is always on, System 2 is usually off, or more precisely, running in a low-effort monitoring mode that only escalates to full engagement when something prompts it. This makes sense from an evolutionary and energetic standpoint. The brain consumes approximately 20% of the body's energy despite constituting only 2% of its mass. Running costly System 2 processes continuously would be metabolically ruinous. So System 1 handles the vast majority of cognitive work, and System 2 is reserved for situations that genuinely demand it. The problem, Kahneman shows, is that System 2 is often not mobilized when it should be. System 1 is fast and confident, but its confidence is not calibrated to accuracy. It generates plausible, fluent responses that feel correct even when they are wrong. System 1 cannot accommodate complexity, probability, or careful weighing of alternatives. It substitutes an easier question for a harder one, generates answers based on what is available and salient rather than what is relevant and representative, and it presents these answers to consciousness with no flag indicating that they might be products of a fast and fallible heuristic rather than careful analysis. System 2, when functioning correctly, is supposed to check System 1's outputs. When you feel a flash of strong intuitive judgment, System 2 should evaluate whether that intuition is reliable in this context, whether there are factors System 1 might have missed, whether the confidence System 1 is signaling is actually warranted. But System 2 is lazy. It tends to accept System 1's outputs unless there is a strong and specific signal that something has gone wrong. We are cognitively miserly. We expend the minimum effort necessary to reach a satisfactory judgment, not the maximum effort necessary to reach the best one. This interaction between the two systems explains a remarkable array of phenomena that Kahneman documents throughout Thinking, Fast and Slow: the anchoring effect, the availability heuristic, overconfidence, the planning fallacy, the halo effect, and many others. In each case, the pattern is similar. System 1 generates a response that is fast, confident, and wrong in systematic ways, and System 2 fails to override it because the override requires effort that is not automatically supplied. Understanding this architecture does not make us immune to its effects. Even Kahneman himself reports falling prey to the very biases he has spent his career documenting. But awareness of the two-system structure provides a framework for recognizing the conditions under which our fast thinking is likely to mislead us. Under time pressure, when we are cognitively depleted, when we are emotionally aroused, when we face questions that are unfamiliar or complex, and for knowing when to slow down and think more carefully. Subscribe to Psychology Theories Explained to explore more of the ideas that shape the modern mind.